In this video, you'll learn how to make your mixes way more interesting in just a few minutes using volume automation. So if you want your music to sound more professional and more engaging, keep watching. But first, be sure to download the free volume automation cheat sheet. There is a link on the screen now or in the bio. Hey, how's it going? Rob here from Musician on a Mission, and let's dive right in with this trick. By using some simple volume automation, you can make your mixes more interesting by always making sure there's a core focus. So for example, when the vocal drops out, because that's generally going to be the core focus, you can bring in something else like a keyboard fill or a drum fill to take up that empty space. And by just turning up the volume a little bit for that one little section while the vocals disappeared, you make sure there's something that's pulling the listener in rather than them just getting bored in the gaps between the phrases of the vocal. Then the vocal comes back in, the volume goes back down on that keyboard part, and later on maybe the vocal drops out again, and this time there's a really nice guitar fill, so you just bring that up a little bit. The goal is to just guide the listener through the song, make sure there's always something pulling them in and that there's always a main focus when that vocal drops out. And then you can get a bit more creative with it and use volume automation in other ways to make your mix more interesting, more engaging, and more impactful. Now, if you want to see me actually do this in a mix, keep watching because we're going to go through a whole track together and add automation. Let's start by listening to the track, and we're going to go from the very beginning. And as soon as I notice a spot where I think, you know what, that'd be a great point for some volume automation, I'm going to hit stop and we're going to do it together.
I didn't mean to fall in love with you. I didn't know you had the key. But won't you unlock every...
So there's a few spaces there, but because it's only the acoustic guitar and the vocal at the moment, I don't really want to bring up the acoustic. It's quite nice to have that space. The reverb sounds nice and lush, so we'll leave it there.
Every chamber in my heart, please. And I'm still learning how to love you.
But now we've got this banjo that's filling in the gap on the other side as well. So here I feel like it could come up. Now I've actually already done this with the banjo. So what you can see here is the volume comes up slightly, it ramps up, and then it drops back down for when the vocal comes back in. So let's actually watch this and listen.
And I'm still learning how to love you. And it's
really this hit here. When the vocal drops out, it kind of fades out. And then this hit here is really obvious, and straight away that grabs your attention. If you can imagine listening to this for the first time, that would really pull you in.
Still learning how to love you.
And then it drops back down.
Or I always will. But I'm glad we took this chance on greener sides. Oh.
So let's just make sure that's not interfering with the vocal, because we want to be careful that we're not pulling attention away from the lead vocal.
But I'm glad we took this chance.
So maybe that could come down a touch. Really not that much of an issue though.
But I'm glad we took this chance on greener sides. Oh, you were the risk and the reward. But every day...
Another great example there. This banjo is really filling a lot of those gaps. So we're going to do the same again. We're just going to grab it so we can see the vocal. And if you think it will make it easier, what you can do is zoom out and actually just pull the channel that you're working on up to the top here so that it's directly under the vocal. We can move it back later. It just means it's going to be easier now to actually see where those gaps are.
But every day...
So there is a kind of a bit of the end of a piano trill in there, but the banjo is really what fills that gap and adds a lot of interest to that little section.
But every day you gave me
and then we can just drag those out to make it sound a bit more musical, a bit more subtle, not as blah, straight away, louder.
But every day you gave me reasons to believe that it's so easy.
So there's a gap there, but I like it. Again, that nice lush reverb I'm using, FabFilter Pro R, sounds really nice. That's filling that gap, so we don't really need any effects there.
To believe that it's so easy to love you. It's so easy.
I feel like we're giving the banjo too much attention. So let's see if there's something else we could use here, because there is a bit more of a fill there in the acoustics that we could actually use. So let's pull that back down and let's have another listen to just that gap there.
Easy to love you. It's so easy.
So now we've got these 2 acoustic guitars. It's creating this really nice stereo spread. It sounds really warm. So what I'm going to do instead here is automate the bus. So depending on what DAW you're using, it might already be there, but in Logic, you just have to actually turn on automation. Then we can drag this up to the top and we'll just automate both those acoustics. Instead of automating them individually, we can just do this.
Easy to love you.
And they already come up a little bit anyway. Then let's just make that slope a bit more natural.
Easy to love you.
Too much. So normally just a decibel, 2 decibels is all you need.
Easy to love you. It's so easy to love you. I would run out of ink trying to write an easy.
So I feel like we could fill those gaps, but the vocal comes back in pretty quickly, so we'll leave those alone.
Trying to write a list of reasons. It's so easy to love you. We met again.
Oh, banjo there. That was a nice fill on the left ear. So different banjo now. So I'm guessing this is banjo 2. Let's bring that one in this time. Easy. We can just pull up that whole bit.
We met again, instantly friend.
So you get the idea. There might be a few more examples in the rest of the song, but that's it. So now you could get a bit more creative with it. So you could, instead of just doing this line here, maybe we could make the middle of the fill a bit louder so that it feels like it goes something like that. You can get really creative with vocal automation as well. So we could just pull up the ends of words. I love doing this. So we can just get this, for example, and let's see how this sounds. When vocalists trail off towards the end of the word, there's normally so much nice stuff there that just gets lost. So you can pull that up like that. So there you go. It's really simple, really easy. This is one of your jobs as a mixer. It's to pull the listener in, to enhance the original artistic intent and emotion of the track. If you saw the video I posted a couple of weeks ago called What is the Goal of Mixing? This is that second goal. So please don't neglect it. Only takes a few minutes at the end of a mix, but it can have a huge impact. There are actually quite a few different ways to use volume automation when you're mixing. So I put together a cheat sheet so you can actually apply this, because you need to go away and do this now in your mixes. So that cheat sheet will help you to apply this particular trick, and it's got a couple more tips in there for applying volume automation to your mixes to take them to that next level. And of course, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. So that's all from me. I'm Rob from Musician on a Mission, and remember, create regardless.